It's a couple days later, again I'm a lot further. I was able to finally get the subframe out. That was such a pain in the butt. I really didn't have time to film it. Power steering rack came out with it. I got to degrease that as well. That's getting all cleaned. Got a new engine mount for there and one for there. But what I got to do next is I got to get these axles out of these hubs, and I can't tell if you'll be able to see that because it looks very dark on the screen. So I had to rent this tool. It's OEM 27037. It's an axle puller from AutoZone. Just kind of mount that over this way, bolt it down, and then tighten this up. This will push that pin into the axle and shove it out that side. I basically could not get these axles out by hitting it with a socket and a hammer. I don't want to ruin it any further or cause any type of damage, so that's the tool I'm going with. Sometimes you can get away with just hitting it with a hammer. Other than that, I pretty much now have full access to the oil pan. So once the front differential there comes out, and then the front axle holder or carrier, whatever that thing's called over on that side, and the axles come out, the oil pan will be dropped next. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the oil pan off today because the passenger side axle was being a pain, and that tool I rented ended up not working. I had to use a mini sledge to bang out the front axle on the driver's side there, which kind of sucked, but it's the only thing I had. So tomorrow I've got to go look for a tool that I can press out the other one, because that one's stuck. It just will not budge. Welcome back to part 3. I'm pretty sure it's part 3. So last time I left off, couldn't get the oil pan off because I had an axle that was stuck. I finally got the right tool for that. Got that passenger side axle. That tool that I used will be in a link in the description below. Same with the last video, because the first one I got just did not fit. So today's goal is just to get that oil pan off. I got the power steering pump off, and now I believe I'm 3 bolts away from getting the oil pan off. One of the bolts was already broken. I moved it a little bit by hand, and it just kind of fell out. And there was a big kind of oil leak in the back, closer to the transmission. I'll show you where that is. So I'm guessing that bolt probably broke a long time ago. Since there's not really a whole bunch of room under here, I'm going to just try to film as best I can, just because this lens makes it look like there's not a whole lot of room. Well, it makes it look a lot worse, but there's enough room to work, just not enough room really to film and work. So there's the oil pan just kind of dripping away. But what I was trying to get to was back there, that bolt, or actually I'm sorry, it was that bolt there, in that hole. I don't know if you'll be able to see. There, that was broken, which is odd. I don't know how that would have gotten broken, but I guess I'm gonna have to drill and tap that, or try to get an extractor in there to get that stuck piece of aluminum out. So anyway, yeah, it's the underneath here. Much easier to get to the water pump and everything if you take your subframe off, but that's a hassle on its own. So I'm gonna pull this oil pan off and then see just how bad the carnage is. I've switched to my Pixel 3 for it's easier to get in here than the DSLR, but it looks like no belt material made it in here. I mean, I can't guarantee for sure, but looking at, oh, maybe I'm wrong. I do see some belt material in the oil pan itself, but I don't see any around the timing components. I'm gonna take the oil pickup tube off in a minute and see what's under there. Or, forgot, there it is, oil pickup tube. I think it's just 1, 2 bolts and then an O-ring in there. So yeah, let's see what's in that screen. Well, after getting the oil pan off, it looks like a lot of belt material did make its way into the oil pickup tube. I don't know if you'll be able to see on camera. I'll try my best to kind of get light there, but there's a lot of belt material in that filter screen there. So yeah, and who knows exactly how long it was ran while it was like that, meaning there was definitely oil starvation big time to this motor. So let that be a lesson. Never let your friends borrow your car, especially one that doesn't have the capacity to think that, hey, if the check engine light's on and all these lights are showing up, I'm just going to keep driving it anyway. Because now I don't really know if I'm out a whole motor or not. I might take the time and measure the piston, or not the pistons, measure the bearings, make sure that they're not too terribly scored. I looked at the cam lobes underneath the cam ledges, because I didn't have a tool to remove the cam ledges, but from what it looked like, there was a lot of scoring on them. This motor's only got 80,000 miles on it, so either way, this motor was really aged significantly due to an oil starvation as a stupid mistake that a friend made. So I don't know, I'm not happy at this point, but what can I do besides put it back together? And if it's not running right, if it's sounding like crap, I need a new motor then. Now that I'm under here better, you can see where that broken bolt is up here in the bed plate. So what I'm going to try to do is attempt to drill and use an extractor to get that out. Hopefully I can. If not, I might have to tap it and use some kind of aluminum helicoil to fix that, or aluminum time cert. Normally, as often as I can, I like to make DIYs or tutorials. Unfortunately, due to time constraints and space, I'm not able to do that. But what I do want to show you is that that bolt was pretty well broken in there. I drilled it off a bit and used this, used some tape. I ended up using a bit more tape that's kind of fallen off when I was drilling, because you really don't want any aluminum shavings in your motor, if you can help it, of course. So after that, I basically just tapped or hammered in this extractor. I think it's just a standard Ryobi set. I'm using a, I'm using something. I don't know what I'm using. I can't words today. I'm using an adjustable crescent wrench, because I don't have a socket. It's like bigger than a 4mm, but smaller than a 5mm. I tried standard sockets too. It would not fit in there whatsoever. So I'm just having that come out bit by bit, taking my time, and I don't have a tripod to show you the process, so hopefully it'll work. It's another day again, and my DSLR's battery's dead, so bear with this phone. Time to do the crank seal. We have got to get this new old crank seal out and a new one on with this sweet bit of kit. This Johnny, I think, ran me close to $400. Now I'm going to go ahead and use this tool to pull out the old seal. Well, there isn't much, any if at all, room under here to kind of film this whole process, much like the rest of this video, so I apologize again. But the crank seal puller is installed. Now I'm just going to begin to tighten the screw down, that bolt, whatever you want to call it, and hopefully it grabs what's left of that seal. There's really not too much of that seal left, so I'm hoping that this will be able to grab on and pull it. Otherwise I'm going to have to use a screw type. So I've tried the puller method, or the other puller method, about 15 times, and I just could not get that seal to go. So now I'm using the screw-in method, which I hope there's enough of the material to grab into. I think that might have been the issue with the other one. There just wasn't enough, no matter how hard I pulled it. So I put in these screws, which it came with the kit, standard Phillips head. I just use a shorter screwdriver. Then you just take out these, what do you call, these bolts that go into the crank, into the crank hub. And then once all these three big bolts are out, that's when you start tightening this guy to pull that away. Hopefully it grabbed. We'll find out shortly. Well, even somehow that method failed. Oh man. I'm gonna have to try the other tool that I was using before. Give that a couple more tries. Sorry for the rain noise in the background, but I think that last tool helped a bit. I cranked this one down quite a bit. As you can see, the seal's finally starting to come up. Look at that. That is amazing. I mean, I cranked this one down far. I hope I didn't put the tool too far in and maybe scratch one of the gears or press against the timing chain. That would be a whole nother disaster. So hopefully I designed it so you can't put it in that far. That would be quite helpful. I'll probably just speed this process up a bit. Let's get this seal out finally. Oh yeah! That front crank seal is finally out of there. Hopefully without any damage to the hub. Or this hub ring. Ugh, what's that? Well, I'm gonna have to use something to grab that out. Other than that, that looks pretty scratch free. So, next up, it's time to install a new crank seal after that gets all cleaned down. The rain's coming down a little harder now, so I'm getting wet since I'm at the front of the garage. Can't really close the garage door without having almost no room to work back here. So, on that note, I've bolted up this little crank hub thing that was originally used to pull out the seal, just to prevent the ingress of large debris. I mean, dust could still get in there, but not much more than that would be able to get in there with the old busted crank seal. So that's where I'm going to have to end this video tonight. So thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, like the video, share it, and then remember, as always, keep it foul.